Welcome back to Living Local. The Korean War has been called the Forgotten War in the United States, but one local veteran is working to change that by educating about the historic event, commemorating its 70th anniversary, and most importantly, remembering the soldiers who never made it home. We're joined by Korean War veteran Robert Fitz of Rock Island. Robert, thank you so much for letting us stop by.
We're welcome.
Well, what inspired you, Bob, to join the Army and serve our country?
Well, when World War II was over, the veterans were our, ones we looked up to and honored. And the main part was, though, that they offered us $75 a month. And that's like $700 today, and so it was really something. And we got to go up north with jeeps and trucks and play Army for every summer for a month or so,
And Bob, you served in the Army and eventually in the Korean War.
Yes.
What was so significant about the Korean War?
The Korean War was it came when the United Nations was formed, and the Korean War was different because there was no more wars. Our people, a lot of our people and other people, veterans, went to Korea, and we were at the 38th parallel was where we were down to the coast, and we were there, and we didn't send too many people, enough people. And lo and behold, North Korea, one morning, they came with their bugles, screaming and hollering by the hundreds. And we weren't prepared. I wasn't there then, but we weren't prepared. And so the guys started moving south, back to Incheon. When they invaded, they came down the side with all the ports, and that's what they wanted, the seaports. The other side was wide open. They were all gathered here on this side. And so instead of coming in on them, they came in across country and surprised them so much. So they cut them in two, and the North Koreans that had come down, if they was on this side, you die or you surrender. And the others, of course, took off, and they followed them back. And they pushed back up, and they pushed too far. It was our general, in charge, Patton. And he pushed too far, too fast. And they got up there, and that winter was 30 below zero. Coldest winter they'd ever had. And you can't live out, and you live outside all the time. And we were losing people, and of course they were still picking us and trying to kill us and everything else. Went to the United Nations, and they finally started the peace talks.
Yeah, just a snapshot of, I'm sure, a much bigger picture there. Bob, what factors do you think contribute to the Korean War being the forgotten war?
Well, because it was United Nations, and people were tired of wars. And Korea, our Korea, was a small nation, unimportant nation, and that was the sad part about it.
One of the ways that you're spreading awareness about this historic event, the Korean War, is by this homemade memorial in your garage. And just looking at all the artifacts and the pictures around, it's really a powerful statement of why this is so important. What sort of things can folks see in your exhibit?
We try to give people a reality of war. It's hell. And to the forgotten war, and it was. Everybody's tired of war. They didn't want to talk about war. And when we would go and come back, nobody cared. We didn't have any parades. we came back as individuals and streaming in and coming home and settled down but we come home and nobody cared, you know, and the guys would tell us this, oh, you weren't really in war like we were in World War II, you know. But there were a lot of other people that respected us. But the others, it's, you know.
Wow, so coming home was obviously hard and transitioning back into this society that didn't really welcome you back.
No, they didn't.
And, you know, there's nothing that we can do to change what has happened in the past, but what we can do now is to commemorate those soldiers that served our country in a very important historic war. And that is what the goal of this memorial is. Why is it so important that we remember the Korean War as well as the soldiers who never made it home?
Well, because they need to be honored. I mean, we did the job. But as I say, people were just tired of war, and they weren't interested. It wasn't a big war like World War II or Civil War or one of them, but it was a war. It was a real war, and so it wasn't important, and people didn't care. And it's been that way. And so we, as Korean veterans, we formed our own organizations, and we supported one another.
Now, Bob, you're helping our community realize the importance of the Korean War by this memorial. Can folks in the public stop by your garage?
Yes, we want them to stop by, because the thing about it, we got 70th year this year of the start of war. And we said, well, what are we going to do? Because we usually have conventions and national conventions and local conventions for us to, you know, to recuperate and to help one another. And so we started looking at ways, what can we do? And then, you know, what's happened now.
Right.
Well, water, what? What's available? And we wrestled with it for a long time. It clicked, my garage.
There you go. Easily accessible, and here it is. Where have you found everything to put in the exhibit?
When I was on the national board and when I was on the director, or, you know, president of the state and all this, going through all this, I'd collected stuff, you know. I don't know why. Then I didn't know why. Well, you want this? You want that? I don't want it anymore. I said, yeah. I put it upstairs. And then when I began to get it out, I had forgotten all about it, you know, and realized what it was. And then other guys started bringing stuff in. Korean Nation gave us flags, and the United States gave us flags. And we started putting it together, and we didn't know what we was doing. But we just kept changing, improving, changing, improving, and moving around. And so this is what we ended up with.
It's wonderful. Bob, what do you want folks to not only take away from this exhibit, but also your story and your experience as a Korean War veteran? What do you want people to know?
That we weren't the forgotten one.
That's good.
The guys that died were better.
It's hard. It's hard to, it's an open wound still, I'm sure. Bob, thank you so much for sharing a snapshot of your experience. Thank you so much for your service and for letting us visit this memorial.
Yep.
If you would like to stop by and see the exhibit, you can call Bob at 309-793-1292. More Living Local continues after this.